back. My name's Newman. Welcome back to my life with plants. Hey, we're having a cyclone hitting today, so we're gonna have lots of heavy wind. I did a lot of work taking in all the orchids, but we'll show you soon. Yeah, so we're gonna start off. Scantia Nanook. It's got the yellow sticky thing in there to get rid of gnats. It's got brown tips. That's the heat stress. Comes around. I gave it a cut because, as you know, it's a trailing plant. So I need to cut it down. I took nice big cuttings of this and I put it in water, but I'm going to take it out soon and pot it on because I want it to be nice and compact and bushy. I like Scantia Nanook for its translucent window-like leaves with purple and green, but I want to get a goldfish plant. Seen some pretty neat looking Ischananthus. They have some beautiful flowers, so I want to get some of those too. Next up is my collection of tillandsias. Now, if you don't know about tillandsias, they grow in South America, right up into Mexico, and you've got the typical one that every American will know if you live in Louisiana and all those states. They've got that Tillandsia sinoides that dangles from, I don't know if it's willow trees or marsh trees, and the humidity there. So these are all related, and of course pineapple is another one in the group. They range from big, huge ground-dwelling or rock-dwelling bromeliads that are right up higher up in the mountains there in the tropics of Brazil and Colombia and that, to little small ones like this that you can buy at your store. And they're not that expensive. And these have been doing really well in the basket, and I filled it with moss, not a lot. And the reason why I did that is just to keep some more humidity. And of course, they've really taken to it. So you can see inside this one that this particular tillandsia is starting to root into it. This one is let's see, Salsinata, and this one here is Brachycodus, which gets a little larger. We got a nice compact one here. That's sorry, that's Salsinata. Is that right? And this one here is Brachycolus. And this silvery one here is Capitata Peach, and we got a Baruchi. We got two Baruchis. And if you don't already know that the Baruchis are interesting tillandsias, they have a relationship with ants, symbiotic. Ants like to live inside them, and ants protect them from predators because they want to look after their home. That one just hangs up. And just move that. Everyone knows Hatiora silicanoides. Looks like something that grows on the beach, right? It's like a clump of seaweed that just got washed up on the shore. That's what it looks like to me. But what I find interesting about this is not only is it a epiphytic plant, but it's a member of the cactus family. which is pretty interesting. So there's no thorns on there. It has beautiful little yellow flowers that come out of the apex. And this one's growing in Kanuma, but you can grow it in a Cymbidium mix, a chunky bark with pumice would be fine. It's growing for me nicely. It's been on the wish list for many years, so I finally bought one. And you can cut it back if it gets too big, no problem. Make plenty of cuttings, give them away to your friends. Alright. And remember, I've got stuff that may not be thriving because it's never-ending work to keep on top of it, which I don't mind. Okay, this is another basket here from the Daiso shop. It's got a hanging piece there, and filled it with sphagnum moss. Although this is never going to get to the point where the sphagnum moss will be growing. But I wish I could live in a bedroom like that. I don't know if it would do the walls any good or anything. You know, we would start getting mold and stuff growing, so that wouldn't be good, would it? But I don't know what I'm talking about. But it's got sphagnum moss in it, and it's always going to be just a substrate that it grows into, but it'll never come back to life. The only way to have sphagnum moss start growing is you'd have to have a greenhouse with foggers that pump out fog and keep it almost like 90% misty, humid, cool fog, and then it would start growing. But Tillandsias grow well in here. It's typical me, get right off the subject. This one is Caput Medusae, and this one, and I just used those kitchen, wire ties, and I just tied it in there. This one's bulbosa, so eventually they'll get roots and grow in there. This one is doesn't have its tag on it. So this one here that's like grass, which I really love. That one is Fincifolia, and not sure about this one, but it requires quite a lot of water, probably more than what I can give it, but it can adapt. So that's my neat little basket there. Needs watering again. During this weather, it'll be like 3 or 4 times a week. So I will get on to that. Let's see. Next up is this is my Hoya Matilde, and I've been cutting old growth off it because during this time of the year I've got to keep water in the reservoir so that the roots can keep drinking because they require it in this heat. It's about 28, 29 degrees in here at the moment, so it's actually much cooler because of that cyclone coming, dreaded cyclone. And it's got some new growth right here, as you can see here. It's put out this new vine. It put out other vines and then the tips died and I had cut them off. It's a juggling act, you got to keep, the best way to keep your Hoyas healthy is to have cash pots. It can be anything, you don't have to spend a lot of money. This is just a Daiso pot, and I just keep water in it, so it's like semi-hydro, and because they dry out so quick during this hot weather, and they don't like peat and stuff like that, growing them in peat and stuff like that, because it just rots the roots. They like a chunky, well draining mix, because semi-epiphytic, so they do grow wrapping around trees in there, that it can also start off as seedlings in the soil, but eventually that part will rot off and it'll just become totally epiphytic. So they like chunky stuff, but then they like to be moist too, so that's the cash pot. So it helps with that. So this one is has its up and downs, you know. Right, we've got some flowers falling off from somewhere. Just gonna grunt a little bit of it. Take a small back. We'll do my movements. Kind of like stretching, it's just gentle movements on the floor, my back. The stretching is no good for back problems. Do not stretch, rather do movements. 15's enough. 15 movements. All different directions, and it just helps your back out so much. Alright. This is in flower right now. There it is. These are beautiful flowers of Hoya Sunrise, and I bought this many years ago from a nursery that was also sells precious stones. It makes jewelry. It also imports stuff from Africa and Asia. So it's a multicultural store. The staff there are dressed really interesting. They have interesting earrings on and that, so they really look like they're part of what they sell. And then they have this greenhouse, and inside the greenhouse they bring in lots of Hoyas and everything that you really love, right? All the most amazing stuff. Not just common plants that you can get at the big box stores, which are beautiful, but they also get in the ones that people don't really know about, which sparks interest in the community, you know, and then people get to know these plants better because they're beautiful. Hoyas are beautiful, and in this particular one, Hoya Sunrise, is a hybrid, and between two Hoyas, one's obscura and another one could be pubicalyx or something like that, and it has, when it gets a lot of light on it, it gets this beautiful dark red with the green veining, and typically just plain green, as you can see here, if it's not getting direct sunlight, and it's an easy grower. It's in chunky mix, so it's pumice and small grade bark, and it's got the cash pot because during this hot weather it likes to have just a little bit in there, not too much, of water. And if you are wondering why it's not bigger and bushier, well, that's just because I don't fertilize my plants too much. Okay, if I did, it would go nuts and maybe grow down to the floor. So I fertilize like every second to third watering. I put in just a little multi-purpose liquid feed, and I do put some Osmocote in there, but not too much. It's just, it's like about 10 granules is enough, because I noticed that with houseplants and stuff like that, when you do put in slow release in that, it stays in the soil, and the plant needs to use it up, and also it needs just plain old watering without fertilizer in it to make sure that those salts get out of there. It's not the salts, like I was hearing from one orchid grower the other day, so everything he says is true, but I just wanted to add on one thing. fertilizer burn. It's not the fertilizer that burns your plants, it's the build up of the salts left over in the fertilizer, and you can see it. It's like a salty white stuff that crystallizes on the surface of the medium, and that's what causes the plant to get burned. So say the acidity has just gone straight up, right? So you're looking at 3 or even 3.5 acidity, and that's what causes the burns on your sensitive plants. So just always make sure that when you fertilize, don't be afraid to use fertilizer, and every second to third watering you can put in a feed, right, when they're actively in growth. But the other 2 waterings shouldn't have fertilizer in it, just to keep the salts from building up. Yeah. Oh, the fragrance. Now, the fragrance is amazing. I mean, it's like expensive perfume. Does that make sense? Okay, but it smells like, the best way I can describe this is gardenia, but with a little more rosy. Slightly more rosy gardenia smell. Of course, I've said that this smells like gardenias a lot, but gardenias smell far better. They're probably my favorite, but this one is my second in the plant kingdom for its fragrance. So I love to propagate it, and then I get in trouble and beaten over the knuckles. Yeah. I want to propagate the heck out of it, but who am I going to give it to? Once I finish propagating and the house is like dangling in vines and nobody can move through the house, who am I going to give it to? So this one is Hoya retusa, something like that. I have to put the name on the screen because I haven't said the name too many times, but what's interesting about this one is it's flattened, almost flattened like stems. They can actually confuse you and make you think that, oh my gosh, it's flaccid and it needs more water, but it just naturally grows with a flattened stem. And right at the end of it, it reminds me of a tarantula's foot. I don't know if you ever looked at a tarantula's foot, but it has like 2 little fingers at the end of the foot. Now, I mean, if I was to name this plant, I would give it the Latin name for tarantula foot, whatever that is, because it looks like the feet on a tarantula. And this is like, I bought it 4 or 5 months ago, so I've kept it in this pot. It's doing really well. A funny thing is that I mixed this up with another Hoya, and it's the Hoya that grows pendantly, like a terete. They're kind of like hairy, long stems that are thin, and it dangles down. It grows down in this fashion. It's like lots of spaghetti hanging down. Now, I got that Hoya confused with this one, and it got me into a panic. That's why I was looking at it and thought, oh my gosh, why is it so thirsty? But I had made a mistake about what I purchased this, and I just forgot what I purchased and the name of it. But it'll have a flower, and it'll just come out in singular. One flower is not umbels. Umbels are plants that have flowers in bunches. So this will just have one flower at a time. So I'm looking forward to that. Once again, it's in a cache pot, so it doesn't dry out completely. Okay. Next one, which I have to untie. Tied it to the curtain because when we open up the window it can get breezy and blow it around and possibly snap off a growth. Just got a cup of coffee here. Are you like me and you only like the coffee you make? So here in Japan you buy coffee from the store, just plastic bottles of it, and they've got all different varieties, but I just like instant coffee and I just like a certain amount of sugar. They can be pretty sweet, which is a little bit contrary to Japanese taste. They don't really put sugar in their drinks. Hoya Crimson Queen. Look at these new leaves that are put out. That was the beginning of summer. They had this growth that came out and it was carnosa. So I cut it off and I potted it down there. And it's growing. Wasn't growing on this, however. But interestingly enough, look, it started to come back into growth again. See that? So it does have some little bit of osmocote in there, not a lot. 10 granules. Don't want to put any more than that. I'll make it too acidic. And this is growing in a chunky mix, and it's more plant than pot. And its reservoirs always has water in it. And during this hot weather, I take it to the sink with the rose head. The faucet with the rose head, I set it on that and I just water and water and water it really thoroughly to make sure that all the roots are saturated. And every time I do that, this happens. So you can be watering your plants with your watering can, but you're not soaking the whole mix. So you need to take it to the sink and water it until it's like flowing out. It's absolutely drenched, and then I'll drain it out and I'll do it again a few times. I rescued this from myself because I actually rotted it one time, and it was the mix that was growing, and it was peat. It had peat moss in it. It's too thick. It causes your Hoya to suffocate and rot. But on the contrary, when it grows in a chunky pumice mix with bark, it'll put the roots down into the reservoir down here, and these roots will be like water roots, so they're designed for getting extra water, but the mix is always on the dry side. So that's a growing tip there. That's why I got to bring it to the sink and soak it, because it'll be just excessively dry. Do I want it to grow and grow and grow more? Well, of course I do, but it'll just become a big tangled mess and be difficult to handle, so don't mind if it grows slow. It did have a peduncle a few times, but it's actually, we have one right here. Speaking of peduncles, peduncles are where the Hoya grows from. Its flowers. So we have one right there where my thumb's pointing, and yeah, Hoyas are interesting plants. So if you follow my growing tip, have it in a chunky mix, put it in a cash pot. As you water it, that chunky mix will just dry out pretty quick. But the reservoir will hold water, and it'll send roots down there to get it. But it does not like the average potting mix. It suffocates the roots. It's just, Hoyas are, you could call them plants that are on the evolutionary cycle. still changing and growing and adapting. So they still have a lot of characteristics from their succulent relatives, which are Stapelias and Spicidaceae from the deserts. So they still have a lot of that in their genetics, which helps them to survive in drier parts of Indonesia and Malaysia and stuff like that, in the Philippines. But they also have taken on a more tropical aspects where they need more water, but also they like to dry up pretty quick, kind of like an orchid. There's a little bit of Usinoides that I hooked up on there as it fell off. We got a Tillandsia growing on here, and this is Fuchsii. So this is bonsai wire. It's real pliable. You can just bend it. It's very, very easy. And you can bend it and twist it, and you can have your Tillandsias hanging off it. Kind of like this. This one is Vilikiana. Makes a nice, neat display. It's true, you don't have to have them sitting on any kind of substrate, even a piece of wood. You don't even need to do that. They grow quite happily. And I do water them up to 3 times a week. I take them out. I'm just checking if the camera's on. Is it? Yep. I take them outdoors and I use a sprayer. And inside the sprayer is a very low, a very mild liquid feed. Just very mild. I put it in, and I also have dolomite lime, and I put that powder in a little square bottle with water, and I wait till all the heavy granules settle, and then I squeeze out the top. As I squeeze the bottle out, just the dissolved part of it in the water, I put that into the spray bottle because they like lime a lot. Okay, what's next? We'll take this down so you can have a close look at Nepenthes. Do any of you grow Nepenthes? Nepenthes have been hybridized by a lot of growers now, so that you have a few varieties that are quite easy to grow indoors. It's growing in a peat soil because they love acidic, low nitrogen. Do not put fertilizer in there that has the N in it, nitrogen. It won't make pitchers. Pitchers are designed to get nitrogen because they lack it where they come from in the tropics. So these plants range from India all the way through Philippines, Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines, and you got high altitude growing ones which need cooler, and then you get low altitude, which are the real tropical ones. So they grow like epiphytes, or they grow on stone rocky walls in the jungle and they clamber up to the top like a vine, and then they flower and make seed, and they produce these pitchers. And this one is called Nepenthes Gaia, so it's a hybridized one between Maxima, and Maxima is a very hardy Nepenthes, and one other one from the Philippines. So this one has produced its picture with its full color, like that. So I water it when it's just starting to get dry, and then I water it, and I just do that cycle. Never keep it wet all the time. And it's very humid in here. It's got 60% humidity, so it's humid enough. Each pitcher will require some water. This one has you can just see the water moving around in there. So when you get a new pitcher, you put water in there. You should use bottled water or rainwater, and if you can't get that, put dechlorinizer in your tap water, and it should do fine too. Now, why did that leaf break off? So something got my attention. I'm just looking at one of my plants here, and the leaf broke off. Maybe I'm just too rough with my hands. So yeah, it dangles from this rope that goes all the way up to here with a hook. So I'm utilizing all my space. So you could call this an indoor jungle, because every space has a cord hanging down with a plant taking it. So for example, I have this space here that I could grow something. I have this space down here too. Yep. Okay, Venus flytrap. It's going in this container here. Should be outdoors. They are outdoor plants. Eventually I'm going to put it outdoors. These are ground orchids that are found in most of Asia and those kind of countries. They have beautiful flowers on them. And now they are just growing leaves, storing up the energy in their bulbs. And they're in these neat, they're still in their original little planter, and then put inside these owl pots. This is got wrinkles on it, so I'm curious. I just want to look under there a little bit. Being a bulby plant, they just readily have that onion-like flaking stuff on them. The skin as it grows. It's a native of South Africa. It's been doing really well in here. It's nice and luscious. The name doesn't come to me right now. I'll put it on the screen. There's like little bunches of little bell-like flowers that hang down on their inflorescence. I can't remember its name properly. This is a cylindrica. Sansevieria. This nice tall pot. Next to it is my Miltonia UQ. It's got flower buds. If they open up, I know that everything I've done is right, and then I can run my mouth and tell everyone how I did it. But if it doesn't, then I did something wrong. Being a Miltonia, it does all sorts of crazy stuff, like get like disease looking on the tips I'm going to cut those back off a little bit. Spotting on the leaves, you name it. You just cut the tips off, that's all you can do. Orchid problems. It's growing in a very chunky mix indoors. I'm cultivating it outdoors, it would die by now with this heat. Unless I hang it under the trees, it'll have a chance, but not with our temperatures that get close to 40. It's about 100 Fahrenheit. You try to grow this in a greenhouse, you can kiss it goodbye, it'll die. In the summer, you got to have it out, breathing out in the air under the trees. Hanging under the trees is the best place. Sansevieria grey honey. It's put out all this new growth. I'm really happy with it, and it's a nice compact one, so I'm not taking up too much space. So grey honey is a great Sansevieria to have. This is the cutting I took off my Hoya Crimson Princess, or Queen, and it's reverted back to Carnosa. See that? There's lots of roots on it. It dropped its peduncle finally, but we don't need that right now. It'll make more, and it's got 2 new leaves, and everything's great. You know, nice chunky mix in there. That's what they like. On the contrary, I have a Curtisii that I put in Carnuma and fine pumice. And that pumice is called Carnuma. And Akadama is like a red sticky, well not sticky, it's like a porous clay. As you can actually see it there, see that? It's the kind of clay that a lot of cacti planted in, and it's taken off, so it likes that, so I'll keep it in there. Alright, up! This long thing starting off from here going up is my almighty Peperomia Hope. Even taken cuttings off it because it grew right down to the floor, and then these are starting to grow, and I need somebody to give it to. This is one of the easiest, it could be the easiest. Likes to be watered and to dry out in between watering, so give it a good water, drain all the water out. It's got a cash pot in there, however I don't keep any water in it because it doesn't like it. Funny. And it likes to dry out and then get a good watering, and then I tip out the rest, so there's nothing left, just the moist mix. It's been growing really well. Up here is a kind of a epiphytic cactus from Brazil that have been growing in this pot here. I can't remember its name offhand, but it'll have tiny little inflorescences that grow along the nodes of the stem, so that's looking really neat and growing well. Up here is Hoya, and I don't know the name of it. It has really large leaves, and it has that nice lip right on the edge of the leaf, which lets you know that it comes from a pretty heavy rainfall area. And over here, Hoya, what is its name again? Calistophylla, which is growing really well for me. It's got nice long runners coming off it. Yep, I'm having success with that. More Tillandsias in here too. Coconut fiber in basket, and then nylon onto another basket, and then pieces like this one I bought, and I just wired it onto here, etc, etc. This one is a bunch of more Tillandsias. Put on a ring. Yes, anyway, I must end it here because I need to do things. But thanks for watching my update. And yep, Hoya Bella, that is. It's growing really well for me too. Yep, and if I miss something, I'll catch up with you later with another houseplant tour. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again next time. Hopefully we don't run out of power. If we do, sorry about that. This is where all the orchids are. To bring them in, and some cacti. Check that out. Cumulopintia boliviana. Nice, huh? Grows up on the wall there. There's another purchase there. All the orchids have to stay in here because of the torrential winds and stuff we're going to have. I brought in this House CI and that one because it'll topple over. And I did some mounting. I mounted these orchids on because they were suffering and I don't want them to die, so they're now mounted. This is later GCI. What's left of one, I mounted it on there. Yep, that's all I can show. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again next time. Bye bye.